Hi, I'm Tereza with Potomac Beads. Today we will work on my embroidered brooch with lots of crystals. So if you need any of those, head into the description below the video where you can shop for these items, and let's get rid of the beads and start working. Today we'll be doing bead embroidery. Our base will be a beading foundation, which is like stiff felt. I cut out 5 by 5 centimeter square piece, which will serve as my foundation for the crystals and the beading. I will be working with Miyuki beading thread. You can also use 1G or henna or something different fabric style wise, what you prefer. And I recommend drawing some basic shapes, basic lines on the square so you know where the center is, so you can keep the symmetry and follow the shape you want more easily. So we will start with the Potomac Crystal Trillion, which has 3 sides and 6 holes on the sides. What I want to do is to match the center of the trillion with the center of the square. So I kind of prepared it like this, and I have my thread ready with the knot at the end, and I will start somewhere roughly close to the center. I will use the holes in the metal setting to hold the trillion down. So what you just want to do is to be really careful with positioning the first few stitches. So that the first crystal is sitting nice and well in the lines, and I want to connect all the holes as I showed. So it's the second one. So I'm basically matching this corner to this line and this metal prong to this line, because it's easier to draw diagonal lines than just count the 3. So I'm matching at least these 2. So that's 2. Check again, and now the last one. Check again, position the crystal and go down to the foundation. So again, some checking, and I would say we managed to position it nicely. It's sewed down to the fabric, and now I will go once more through the holes just to make it sure that it really stays in its place. For the next step, I will be adding these larger navettes. They are called slim navettes. It's a 4 by 15 millimeter long crystal. So I already positioned them a bit and draw small lines where they will be reaching to. And I will start, to make it easier again for me, on the line here where I can still follow it, so basically from the beginning. And I will again try to match the holes and the crystals perfectly. So again, using the holes in the metal setting, position your navette, and just by checking, so somewhere here, again in a few stitches, if you didn't manage for the first time, you can reposition a bit later. So something like this, I would say. I'll hold it down, go down to the fabric again, and now to the second hole. Like this. Position the crystal again. It's a lot of moving by very small spaces, but it's necessary. It will save you some frustration later. And that's it. I will again go through the holes and make sure that the crystal sits in the line. And like this, I want to add a crystal always at the corner and at the prong. So I will be adding 6 in total. Always judging by mostly the eye, since the diagonal lines are 4 and we have only 3. So from there I will have to judge. So do something like this, connect, attach the navettes to the bezel, and then you will move over again to another crystal. For the next step, we'll be adding the smaller navettes. These are 5 by 10 millimeter, and I want to position them like this. So I will take them out for a moment, and this is how I ended up with the slim navettes, the larger ones. So it's not super easy to catch the lines, especially on this trillion, but you can definitely manage, I'm sure. And now I will insert these smaller ones on the sides with the tips pointing towards the metal prong of the metal setting of the trillion. This will be easier because they are already leaning onto the larger navettes, so you can take one by one, put it inside, get the tip here where it touches the tip of the slim navette and the metal prong, and again you will use the 2-hole setting and sew it down to the beading foundation. Just don't push the other navettes too much so they don't change the lines you were building up before. So stitch number 1, just checking the position just to be sure, and now going to the second hole. Positioning it again and down to the foundation. This is rather quick in the number of stitching, but definitely take your time and check if the crystals are sitting well, so in the end all the lines are perfect and you get the symmetry you wanted. So I will add 5 more of these smaller navettes like this around the whole trillion. For the next step we'll be adding rose Montees. So rose Montee has this kind of a setting, this cross section, so I want to add them in the places here. Just let me do this, and here it just, the only thing to watch out for is the position of the prongs. If you want to have them like pointing towards the middle or being in different position, just have it the same way for every single one. So I will insert it something like this, where the prongs are touching the slim navette on the sides. So something like this, and then you have to go across. So pick up the rose Montee and go across. Then you have to position it again. Let's say something like this, and down to the beading foundation. Now move over a bit and finish the cross. And like this, add 5 more Montees. Now I would like to add a row of 11 seed beads around all crystals to make the finishing touch. If you want to, you can keep on building up the crystals, you can add more, but now I think this will be enough for me, and what I want to do is to add seed beads. So I'm starting here at the corner between the slim navette and the rose Montee. So I picked up 2 11's and I'm sewing down after the second 11, and then I will go up close to the slim navette between them and through the second 11. I will pick 2 more, position them nicely alongside the navette and go down again. Now I will go back again between the first 2 and go through all the three 11's, because I want them to be all in one line, so I want to have them nicely and go through all 3 of them. Now at the tip I would recommend putting only 1 seed bead like this and going around the seed bead, so you're sure that you have 1 bead at the tip. And from here I will put again 2 11's and go just through them, so there's like they are separated from the one at the tip. You can play with the position of the bead, sometimes it's a bit tricky. And again 2 more. Like this I will go around. There are really no strict rules to the embroidery. I just try to create it in the way it's pretty. Now I will jump back up and start adding 11 rows around the rose Monty. I usually go by 2. Like this I will continue, and I will add the beads alongside the edges of the crystals. So continue along, and like that the front will be done. Now when you have a borderline finished from the beads, you can have the thread on the back side, cut it, and we will cut out the shape. So go close to the beadwork, but watch out for the threads on the back side. And cut out a precise shape. Around the whole beadwork. If you're not sure, you can cut out a rough shape and then go back and clean it a bit. It's definitely better to cut less in the first and then cut more, just to be sure. Something like this, I will probably go even closer to the beads, but you don't have to be scared when you look at it from like far away. You won't be able to see the white foundation at all. So if there's a bit left, don't worry, it won't be visible when you are wearing the pendant or the brooch. So like this I will cut out the rest. Now you should be ready to work on the back side. For the backing we will use artificial leather. I will use this silver one, and we need to cut out a perfect shape, the same one as is our brooch. So put it on the wrong side and get a pencil and trace the shape of your brooch. It doesn't have to be necessarily 100% perfect. We will cut the precise shape later when we are sewing together all the sides. You can always adjust things. One thing which I would recommend is to mark the direction. So let's say I will put an arrow here, and in the same direction I will put an arrow here. It might be a bit difficult, just get a pencil that works. So, because although we marked everything and we were trying to stay super precise, I mean in positioning the crystals, there might be some variations which you want to like avoid here, and that's it. So grab again the scissors, just cut it out, and then I'll cut it precisely a bit. I will have some reserve here. It will be easier to cut it later. I just want to be sure that I'm not over cutting, because that you can fix. If you have some extra artificial leather, you can cut it off later. So like this, and don't glue it there yet, because before you glue it to it, so I have it like this, we need to add there the pin, the brooch pin, because sewing the two layers together is the last thing you want to do. So cut out the rest and then you will add the brooch pin. When you have the shape cut out, we need to prepare a small piece of the artificial leather for the brooch pin. So I cut out a small square for my brooch pin. It needs to cover the space between those two ends, all the holes, and then needs to be a little overhang on those sides, because we will be sewing it down to the leather. So what I want to do is, you need to decide which side will be up, or like in which direction you want to have your brooch. So turn it and choose the nicest way. Let's say, I'm just gonna check if this is okay. Yeah, I think so. So I will be doing it in the direction of the arrow. What you want to do is to first sew the brooch pin alone to the leather with the thread you are using, and then you want to cover it with the little piece. So I have here my beading thread with the knot at the end, and I'm going through the first hole and to the second one. So you don't want to also position the brooch pin right into the middle, like here, because if you have a large brooch pin, it will what's the English word? It won't stay properly lying on your coat, because the top is heavier than the bottom, or like it has the same weight, so it will fold away from your coat. So position it a bit higher, and this will mean that there will be no problem at all. So just a few times, oops, go over the holes. You can also use a bit of glue and just put it on. And what you also can do, whatever, you can go here, like up and down, which will, because the holes of the brooch pin are quite large, so the brooch pin can move like this. So just to secure it, go around like this with your needle, quite close to the brooch pin, so it stays in one place, like this. And finally also here, and here. This should be enough. Now take the square and put it on the brooch pin. And from here, I usually start in the corner. So I'm trying to go with my needle up through the little square, close to the brooch pin. Now what you want to do is to go to the bottom artificial leather and again through the square, just a 1 millimeter next to the first stitch. You will have a loop and you will go through the loop, and that's the first stitch, and like this it repeats. So again to the bottom artificial leather and to the square like this. Again create a loop and go through the loop. Now around the corner and like this around the whole square. I'm making super small stitches so it looks cute and neat. It also takes some time, but we are doing this for fun. So continue like this, stitching the square, and after you're done with this, you can knot off the thread and cut it, and then we can start the final stitching to the brooch. When you have the square attached, we are ready to glue together both pieces. So use your favorite jewelry glue and dab the back side. Don't go totally to the edges, because then it will be hard to push the needle through. And put the leather on, adjust its position, and you see I left an overhang here, so I will have to cut out the excess of the artificial leather. So if you have the same, do it as well. And after that we are ready for the final stitching alongside the whole brooch. So using the same thread, turn the back towards you and start wherever you want by going from the inside out first to the artificial leather. I have a knot at the end. I will hide it inside. And now we will do the same stage like we did with the square. So make a small step to the left or right, depending what's your direction. Go through the beading foundation and the leather and create a loop and go through the loop. And again, small step to the side, loop, going through the loop and pull. You can do this also with beads. I decided to show you another version because we already have beads here at the border. So go stitching alongside without ending any beads. And like this I will go around, and after that the brooch is finished. And with this the brooch is done, so you can check it out. So this was the tutorial for embroidered brooch with crystals. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, you can ask them below the video in the comment section, or you can post your pictures or questions also in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.